At STEM Academy, we're nurturing tomorrow's innovators. A cornerstone of that is project-based learning. A way to learn by defining, preparing, trying, and reflecting, and then iterating through that process. We had the opportunity to sit down with a few of our teachers to help explain further.
Hi, my name is Seth Hutner. I am the high school science teacher and also one of the high school PBL teachers, project-based learning teachers at STEM Academy.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Cochran. I am the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school English teacher here at STEM Academy.
Hi, I'm Mr. Joss. I am the high school social studies teacher here at STEM Academy.
I am Katie Squeers. I teach middle school here at STEM Academy, specifically science for grades 6th through 8th grade.
What exactly is project-based learning?
I would more or less look at project-based learning as almost another way for students to reach their own learning, and not so much through these traditional methods of, we'll just have the students sit there and gather all this information or just like kind of soak it in like a sponge. The students more or less are given the problem, presented some type of problem for them to solve, them to be an active part in that research and finding that solution to that problem.
Project-based learning is typically not a traditional way of learning. You learn through a real life question or a question that you have to solve through hands-on learning and collaboration.
Project-based learning is a lot of self-guided learning for the students. However, the teachers kind of give them like the parameter of, hey, this is where we're going, where we're not going, to keep them on track. But it gives the kids the freedom to do longer projects and to as you get into the 11th and 12th graders, to be able to do something that they're passionate about.
It's the problem-solving process. So we take a problem that we have and we try to ask questions to figure out what is the most efficient way to solve this problem.
How does project-based learning benefit students at STEM Academy?
I feel like it works better because, like, hands-on, they get into whatever topic they're learning about, they're collaborating. I feel like it helps them, I guess, prepare more for what's to come in life, because they have some sort of question that they have to answer based off of the short, I guess, instruction that I provide, and then they use that base information and apply it to help them answer and create the overarching driving question that they need to answer.
I think it allows students to be more engaged in their learning. They get a lot more voice and choice and control over their learning and what they want to learn.
Kids just like to do things, so they want to be involved. Like, they love science. I teach science. They love science because the labs, the hands-on stuff, that's what project-based learning is. I mean, it's not always fully hands-on stuff, but you might be building a website, you might be writing code, you might be creating a product with the 3D printers. They take a lot of ownership in what they're doing, and again, it's guided through the teacher, and here's the steps we're doing, here's where we're going, here's kind of a timeline, but it allows the kids more freedom and feel like they're more involved versus, hey, we're gonna take notes on this and you're gonna do some worksheets and then you're gonna have a test, and then you're just hoping that the kid was engaged, and if they weren't engaged, they're failing the test, right? And in project-based learning, it's okay sometimes to fail while you're going through it, because what did we do wrong? How can we fix that going forward? And it's pretty cool that way.
I feel like with this PBL method that we have here at STEM, it really allows students to kind of take their own learning into their own hands and really begin to look at, okay, how can I as a student or even just as a person begin to problem solve ways that I can solve this problem that's been given to me? Like, what would that solution kind of look like?
What does a typical day look like for one of your students?
So on a normal day, when students come in, I have the planner on the board. The planner has the date, it has the objectives, so everything we're going to get through today. It has the do now, which generally says write in your planner, go on to your vocabulary, or it says to get like a sticky note. Then I have reminders. These reminders are like, hey, we have a test coming up, or test corrections due, or something is due, or hey, fun event's coming up. So we generally do that, and then we get into the lesson. The lesson typically is on paper. I do not do, even though we're a STEM school, I do not do a lot of technology in my teaching. We use textbooks. We read physical books. The only time they're on their computer is if they are, one, doing their vocab because it is online, they're typing a narrative or an essay, or they're doing guided research on it. Occasionally, some students are using a digital journal, but otherwise it's about 20-25 minutes of me going over what the plan is and we're talking about it. The other half is like them working on comprehension questions, what if questions, so where they're thinking within the text, beyond the text, and then just about it in general.
Typically then, at least for my class, students will be presented some type of driving, what's known as like the driving question, which is what students are ultimately doing their own research and learning to answer that problem. There's not really a set answer on what that solution or that product should look like for that initial problem given, and I think that freedom of choice and that freedom of like almost finding your own learning is really nice for some kids.
So a typical day would be, I feel like, students being in charge of their learning in a way. They are the ones that, okay, I give them the base information through small instruction. It's not kind of like a typical, I guess, a lecture that you would see when you were growing up in school. It's more so I give them a 10-minute kind of, here's the base, and now you're going to apply this information to a project that they're creating throughout the unit.
So I teach 9th grade, 11th, and 12th grade, so I'll stay away from the capstone because what that looks is different than the 11th and 9th graders. So 9th graders, we just finished up a community, they had a choice community project where they were making like a proposal or doing something to help the community, whether that's STEM or the Fond du Lac community. So a lot of what their day-to-day was, hey, we're gonna talk, we're on this step as a class, this is where you should be. It might be 15 minutes or less of me talking, and then they get to work. So whether that's them writing a good proposal for the 9th graders, 11th graders, they might be a little bit more involved. They might be coding, they might be creating a website, they might be 3D printing, setting up meetings with stakeholders such as Mrs. Kunzman, the principal. So again, it's limited me talking, maybe just touching on a few different things and then letting them work. And then I go bounce around the kids multiple times per class period. And sometimes it's more formal, sometimes it's informal, and kind of hear, hey, where we're at, where you're struggling, how can I help, things like that. So it's a lot of self-guided by the kids, but also me as the teacher making sure we're staying on track.
Is there anything else you wanted to let people know about?
Yeah, so I feel like we help them plan because we don't just lecture at them and then give them a test at the end, and then lecture and give them the test at the end. I feel like that's not how society we work. For a job, you're not just going to get tested on something, and you're not going to have someone that's going to lecture at you. You have to go through the process, and if you have a situation or a question or something that you need to figure out, you're kind of having to do that most likely on your own. If not, you might have maybe someone to kind of guide you, but that's kind of what helps them prepare for that with project-based learning. They have a question, I give them the basis to kind of help guide them, but they are responsible for their learning for the most part. They need to apply that, what am I saying? They need to apply that, whatever their base, what I have taught them, and apply it and critically think their way through and collaborate with each other to solve an issue to get an end result.
There have been some projects that I've had where like my 8th graders built, we were learning about the Boston Tea Party, and I brought in like tea bags and a bunch of like popsicle sticks and rubber bands and tinfoil, and I basically was like, okay, you know, waterproof like make a crate for this tea to be set in and like find a way to waterproof it, and like we'll take it through like a dunk test and like a float test. Like, will it float?
Is this the part where I pull in this stuff, or is this
If you want.
You know right now? Okay, so for example, with 6th grade, one of the units that they're currently working on, well, they finished working on it, was yellow fever and yellow death. It was an amplified unit called Mysteries and Investigation. So we read excerpts from yellow death. And from here, they learned all about yellow fever. They learned how it spread. They learned the symptoms, the side effects, and all of that. That's a great unit, but it's not pertinent to them in Wisconsin because we don't have that anymore. We don't have that. So what I did was, after we learned about that, we kind of took a break from the unit, and I printed out articles, and I found articles about 5 common toxins or poisons found in Wisconsin. And one of them was ticks, cyanobacteria, which is blue-green algae. I found bee and wasp stings, and I found American toads, because we have a student who loves frogs and toads, so I decided to add that one. And then I also did poison ivy, very common in Wisconsin. So from there, we read articles, we learned about all of these, we took notes on them, and students then created their own newspaper article explaining all about their choice of what they wanted to do. Some of them made them digitally, they used Canva. Others created them. Some students even branched out further, and they didn't do any of them. They did cat scratch fever, which, if you have a cat, you know that cat bites and claws can occasionally cause fever because you can get infected. Other students did rabies. It's not as common in Wisconsin, but there are still cases of it. So we learned about 5, and other students did so many different ones. We had some, because we have an American rattlesnake in Wisconsin. Kids did that because it's technically in Wisconsin. They did like the black widow spider. Things that I didn't even think of presenting to them, they came up with that all on their own.
Yeah, so the PBL stuff is brand new. It was brand new to me at the beginning of the year. And so I've been leaning heavily on what the seniors, because there's 9 of them and they're hard workers, and I've been leaning on them. What have you done in the past? What's worked? What hasn't worked? What do you want this to look like? So we've had a lot of good conversations as a group. So it's not me it's more of us having a conversation. So myself and the 9 kids, and us talking about, hey, where are we at? What do we need help with? And I take their feedback, and sometimes I implement it right away. Sometimes I push back on it. But overall, like I'm just a facilitator. Like if they have questions, they know that they can let me know. And then if it's a longer question, maybe we'll set a time and day that week to sit down and meet about it. And we do regular meetings or regular check-ins anyways, but just having me being more of a resource and letting them just roll with it. And then giving them feedback where appropriate. So they've had a 10 to 15 minute semester 1 presentation, just where they're at with their project. And those took pretty much an entire week. And so they got to get feedback after that from me, and that'll kind of help guide them as they move through the project for second semester and then towards the end of the year. So hey, are we still answering this driving question? Are we staying on track? Are we gonna have a final product at the end? So it's kind of cool. Like they're independent, and the kids will be in the classroom, and I think of Maddie, who's running student council, she's in and out of the classroom all the time because she's setting things up, she's meeting with people during class, she's hanging posters up, she is getting things printed. I'm fine, you're doing stuff, you're having action steps right away, so it's kind of cool for me not to have like these strict guidelines or strict like rules on them, let them run with it.
If your student would benefit from student-driven exploration that allows them to create unique and impactful solutions, come see how we do things differently at STEM Academy. Enrollment is now open for the 2026-2027 school year. Visit the link in the description to secure your spot. Enroll now to help your student build the independence and high-level learning skills to become part of the next generation of innovators and turn their ideas into action.